Hello, students, and welcome to your first math test review of the year. This test is designed for your Mr. Baker Unit 1 test that is upcoming. In this review, we will talk about addition and subtraction of positive and negative numbers, multiplication and division of positive and negative numbers, order of operations, absolute value, and the distributive property. But before we get into the review, it's important that we talk about vocabulary. In this test, you will need to know the vocabulary of certain operations that we do. The first example is sum. The term sum is used for an addition problem. So when you see something like the sum of 6 and q, when there is a variable, all it's asking for is 6 plus q. Sum directly means addition. The next two terms that you need to know are difference and less than. For example, the difference between 2 and 4 is 2 minus 4. Anytime you see difference or less than, it should automatically go off in your head that you are doing subtraction. The term product indicates that we are doing a multiplication problem. So the product of 5 and 6 means 5 times 6, and then you would solve from there. And the final term you need to know is quotient. Quotient is used for a division problem. So when you see something like the quotient of 45 and x, you will immediately know to go 45 times x, and that is how you solve that problem. All right, let's begin the review now. Like I said, we would first go over addition and subtraction of positive and negative integers. Remember, integer is just a term for a positive or negative number. So when you get a problem like 5 minus 7, if you get stuck, you can use your number line. So we always locate 0. 0 is right dead in the middle right there. And then to the left of it is our negative side. To the right is our positive. If you ever get stuck on one of these problems, just draw a number line. The way we use the number line is we take the first number, in this case which is positive 5, and put a dot right there. Next you'll see minus 7. The minus direction we move this way because you see the negative sign right there. So we move 7 in the negative direction. That lands us at negative 2, so my answer is negative 2. If you want to do it in a quicker way and you're starting to grasp the higher concept, you would know you can minus them. 7 minus 5 is 2, and you'll also notice that the negative 7 is bigger than the positive 5, so the answer would be negative. The next example is 3 plus a negative 4. The reason I put this example on here is because people often get confused when they see plus a negative because they're not sure if they should move to the plus side of the number line or the minus side. Let me first start by graphing my first number, which is 3. Now, when I plus a negative, the negative is always stronger than the positive when they are next to each other. Plus a negative, the negative always wins out. So in this case, we'd move in the negative direction, 4 spaces. And my answer to 3 plus a negative 4 is negative 1. Again, if you know this is a minus problem, you can go 4 minus 3. You know that the negative 4 is bigger than the positive 3, so we will end in the negative territory. My final problem, which I'm going to demonstrate, which is something that students often confuse, is when there are two minus signs next to each other. So in this case, we have negative 1 minus a negative 3. The parentheses don't serve any purpose in these. So when I go minus a negative, when you see these two minus signs right next to each other, both of those become positive. Add a line, change a sign, as we say in class. So we have negative 1 minus a negative, or plus 3. So I start at negative 1, and I move in the plus direction 3 spaces. My answer is positive 2. Or if you had negative 1 plus 3, you could do the 3 and the negative 1, 2. The positive 3 is bigger than negative 1, so my answer is 2. Now that I've shown you the demonstration, here are the practice problems. How this works is you'll pause your recording, you'll complete these. If you get stuck, you can rewind and look at the demonstrations again, but you should be okay. Please pause your recording now and complete the practice problems. Let's look at number 1. Negative 8 plus 12. So if I was using my number line, I have my negative 8, my minus direction, my positive direction. If I were to move 12 spaces, I would end at positive 4. My answer is 4. Again, if you want to do it the quick way, we have a positive 12, a negative 8. My answer is 4, because the 12 is bigger than the 4, is bigger than the 8, and the 12 is positive. For the next one, I have negative 7 and a positive 2, which would land me at negative 5. That's my answer. You go 7 minus 2, but I know the negative is bigger, so I am at 5. Number 3 is one which is commonly missed on assessments. I will show you on the number line just to demonstrate it. So I have my 0 and my negative 35. This one you need to pay close attention what it's asking you. So your first one's a negative 35, and then it asks you to move in the negative direction 6 spaces. So negative 36, negative 37, negative 38, all the way through negative 41. That is my answer. If you were going to solve it without a number line, you would notice that the number, it's essentially getting smaller, but it's like we add them together. So it's 35 plus 6. I know that's an advanced concept, but if you understand it, it should make sense. If not, come ask me, and we'll go into further detail. But my answer is 41 when I add those together, and it is in negative territory because it does not cross 0, so it's negative 41. Finally, I put 3 of them together right here just to give you some extra practice. Negative 2 plus a negative 5. Remember, when you're plus a negative, the negative wins out, so it would be negative 7 minus a negative 7. When there are 2 minuses next to each other, they both become pluses. Add a line, change of sign. Negative 7 plus 7 equals 0. There's a couple advanced concepts in that problem. If you were able to get all 4 of these, that is very well done. For the final piece of addition and subtraction of integers, we're going to do the same thing, but we're just going to use a variable this time. You will see something like this on your assessment. So for in these examples, b equals negative 2. I will demonstrate the first one, and then 2 through 4 you guys will complete on your own. So b equals negative 2 plus 10. B equals negative 2 right there. If you read the directions. Negative 2 plus 8, my answer is 8. Please pause your recording now, complete 2 through 4, and resume when you are done. Number 2, again, b is equal to negative 2. Excuse me, that's a minus 5. Hate it when I give the answer away. I have negative 2 minus 5. Again, I start at negative 2 and I move in the negative direction. That will give me negative 7. 3 gets a little bit more tricky. If I have 12 minus b, so I have minus a negative 2, as we learned last time when those 2 minuses are right next to each other, we add a line, change of sign, and my answer is 14. Finally, this was one that has multiple steps. 14 plus 3 is 17. 17 minus 4 is 13. And when I plus a negative b, which is a negative 2, remember, plus a negative, negative wins out, so my final answer is 11. Make sure to circle this one too. If you were able to complete all of those without any issues, you will do very well on the assessment, on the addition and subtraction part. If you are not able to, please go to your math book and complete page 25, numbers 1 through 20, or you can do any variation if you just want to complete a few of those, and have me or Mr. Baker check them, just to give you some additional practice to make sure that you do well on the test. Let's move on to multiplication and division of positive and negative integers. This chart right here will give you a huge hint on how to complete them. When you are multiplying or dividing two positive numbers, your answer will be positive. When you are multiplying or dividing two negative numbers, your answer will also be positive. Let me give you a few examples of that. So 3 times 5, both are positive. That gives me a positive 15. If I did a negative 3 times a negative 5, my answer would be positive 15, because a negative times a negative is a positive. If I have a negative and a positive, like a negative 3 and a positive 5, my answer would be negative 15, because a negative times a positive is a negative. Same thing if they were flipped, positive 3 and a negative 5, again, my answer would be negative 15. Here's what you need to remember. If both of the signs are the same as they were up top, my answer is positive. If the signs are different, as they are below in red, then my answer is negative. Just a quick visual reminder for you right there. Again, I'll demonstrate these first three quickly so you can see how they're done, and then you will get some practice problems. 5 times 9 is 45. The signs are different. This is a positive, this is a negative, so it is a negative 45. 7 times 8 is 56. A negative times a negative is a positive, positive 56. 42 divided by 6 is 7, but I have a negative and a positive. They are different signs, so my answer is negative. Here are 4 practice problems. Please pause your recording, complete these, and resume when you are done. Three times 12 is 36. A positive times a positive is a positive, so positive 36. 50 divided by 5 is a 10, but a negative divided by positive is a negative, negative 10. 3 times 5, I use this in our demonstration. A negative times a negative is a positive, and 64 divided by 8 is 8. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. Again, we have 2 more practice problems. I made these more complicated just to ensure you had the concept down. Please pause your recording now, complete these 2, and resume when you are done. When we have multiple and they're all multiplication or multiplication division, you can work from left to right. We'll talk about this again in order of operations, but from right now you can just work from left to right. So 7 times 8 is 28. A negative times a negative is a positive. We have negative 28. We'll bring the rest of our work down, of the problem. 28 times 1, anything times 1 is itself. That is 28. We are now done with that. 28 times negative 1 is, again, anything times 1 is itself, so that's 28, but it is a negative 1. A negative times a positive is a negative. That is negative 28. Again, working from left to right, we have 7 times 2 is negative 14. 7 times negative 2. Cross it out. Times that by negative 10. Just add your 0 in. A negative times a negative is a positive, so we have positive 140. And I divide that by positive 10, bringing that back to a positive 14. If you got both of those correct, you are very well prepared for the test, and you should do well on the multiplication and division piece. If you did not, Additional practice is located on page 31, numbers 1 through 19. Again, do all or partial of that and show that to Mr. Baker or myself so we can help you make sure that you are prepared for the test. The next concept is absolute value. The definition of absolute value is a number's distance from zero on the number line. That may seem like a complex concept, but it actually is very simple. So for example, I have these two numbers right here. First of all, absolute value is located within bars. You see these two bars around the number, the two straight lines, that indicates absolute value. So if I was on a positive 6 from a number line, that means it's just 6 spaces from 0. So my answer is 6. If I have a negative 6 in absolute value, I am still just 6 spaces away from 0. So my answer is again 6. That is the concept. What you need to know for practical purposes is that anything inside the absolute value bar is just positive. So if you see a negative 6, it turns into a positive 6. If you have a positive 6, it stays a positive 6. Anything inside the absolute values bars is positive. I would like for you to pause your recording now, complete these 4, they should go very quickly, and resume when you are ready. The absolute value of negative 32 is 32. Remember, everything's positive. Absolute value of 63 stays the same because it's already positive, is 63. Absolute value of negative 128 is 128. And the absolute value of negative 45 is 45. Pretty simple concept. We're going to keep the same concept of absolute value, and now we're going to place absolute value within a problem. So in our first example, you already see the answer there, but we have 4 absolute value of negative 3. We know absolute value of negative 3 is positive 3, and we have a 4. This is a concept we'll use for the rest of algebra. If there is nothing here, if there is no sign, we always multiply. No sign, we multiply. 4 times 3 is 12. Again, please pause your recording and complete these 3 problems. Number 1, 10 plus the absolute value of 5, keep it the same, it's already positive, is 15. 14 minus the absolute value of negative 4 is just positive 4, so this is 10. And finally, 8 absolute value of negative 6, it turns into a positive 6 because inside the absolute value, there is no sign, just like our demonstration. 8 times 6 is 48. That is absolute value. If you feel like you need additional help with absolute value, please head to page 18, numbers 9 through 25, and have Mr. Baker or myself go through those practice problems with you. Order of operations is something that you have seen since probably 5th grade now. Order of operations is just a fancy way of saying the order in which we complete all problems in. Most people remember order of operations through PEMDAS. Or they remember the mnemonic, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. All it means is that in a problem, if there's parentheses, we start there, we complete those first, then we complete our exponents, then multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. However, you will notice with multiplication and division, and addition and subtraction, if you're in a problem with only multiplication and division, we work from left to right, and whatever comes first we solve. It doesn't matter if it's multiplication or division. You'll see the same is the case for addition and subtraction. We went over this in class, and I will use a couple examples from this in this review. Since we did so much order of operations in class, I feel like we can jump right into it without a demonstration. You'll see this first one. This is negative 6 times negative 10 minus, in parentheses, a negative 12 divided by negative 6. Please pause your recording now and complete it. Okay, with PEMDAS. I'll write it on the side here so we don't forget. There's nothing to do in the parentheses. In the parentheses, it's just a number, so we don't need to solve anything there. There are no exponents, so we start on our multiplication and division. Negative 6 times negative 10. A negative times a negative is a positive. 6 times 10 is 60. Next is minus, but you'll notice minus or subtraction doesn't come till the very end, so we need to complete our division next. Negative 12 divided by negative 6 is 2. And then I bring my subtraction down. I can do my subtraction now. The only answer that is acceptable is 58. If you did it any other way, that means you did it out of order with PEMDAS, and it is incorrect. Let's try 2 more problems. Quick notes. This 2 right here means 3 squared, so exponent 3 to the second power. And then we're going to have a variable for number 3. You'll insert 6 for y. Pause your recording now. With PEMDAS, we start with the exponent. There's no parentheses, so we start with the exponent. 3 squared is the same as 3 times 3. 3 squared is 9. Let's bring everything else down so we don't get confused. Next is multiplication. 5 times 7 is 35. And then division is next. Do not get stuck on this as subtraction or addition yet. 6 divided by 2 is 3. We bring my subtraction sign down, plus 9. Now that all I have is addition and subtraction, I can just work from there. 35 minus 3 is 32. 32 plus 9. My answer is 41 and only 41. Finally, I insert 6 for y. I have 5, 6. Remember, if there's no sign in between, that is multiplication, plus 18. My multiplication comes before my addition. So 5 times 6 is 30. And then I have 30 plus 18. My answer is 48. I know you guys have done a lot of order of operations, but if you feel you need additional help, page 9, numbers 14 through 23 will help you out. The final concept we're going to cover, which will be on the test, is the distributive property. The distributive property is used when, you'll notice I have only variables here, but you'll notice when I have A parentheses B plus C, I have to take whatever directly outside the parentheses and multiply it by everything in. So I do A times B, which you'll see right here, and then A times C, you'll see right here. And notice I just transferred my sign. I understand that may look kind of difficult just using variables, but it'll be much easier when we get into other things. So let me demonstrate this first one right here. I have in parentheses 7 parentheses 3 plus 9. So I know I need to distribute the 7, since there's nothing in between that and the parentheses, to each number. 7 times 3 is 21. Bring my sign down. 9 times 7 is 63. When I do that, my answer is 84. Here's some practice with the distributive property. Remember to distribute, if it's directly outside the parentheses, distribute to both either variables or numbers within the parentheses. Pause your recording now. When I distribute the 8 and the 2, 8 times 2 is 16, plus 8 times 4 is 32. My answer is 48. Now, here's a concept that you will need to know on the test. When I have to write this in expanded form, and I have not gone over this yet, so pay attention closely. In expanded form, I do 8 times 2 plus 8 times 4. That is how I write it in expanded form. The next one I have outside 9, and I need to to go inside. 9 times x is 9x. Don't overthink it, just like we talked in class. And 9 times 2 is 18. That is how I solve it. If I was asked to do it in expanded form, it would be 9 times x plus 9 times 2. That is expanded form. And finally, don't be fooled that the 3 is on the other side of the parenthesis. You still need to distribute it to both things inside. 3 times 6 is 18y, plus 3 times 3 is 9. And I guess I should have covered it before, but this right here is the final answer. We cannot mix the y's and non-y's. If I were to write this in expanded form, I would do 3 times 6y plus 3 times 3. That's expanded form. Again, for number 4, you don't need to, for this one, there is something like this on the test. If I already write this using the distributive property, if I had 10 times 3 plus 10 times 4, my 10 is my common number. And then 3, bring my sign down, and 4. So that's the way, that's kind of a reverse distributive property, which if you see this, take the common number, put it outside the parentheses, and then you take your remaining numbers and your sign and put it inside the parentheses. If you need any additional help on this, please see page 49, numbers 16 through 21. That is your test review. If you have any questions about anything you've seen in this lesson, first come to me, Mr. Slade, or Mr. Baker, and then also if you needed to do any extra practice problems just for extra help. If you did well on this and you understand all the concepts, you should do very well on the test. But know that you will see some exponents, so make sure you can know your squares, and then also you will have to add, subtract, multiply, and divide some decimals. This is something that we've been through ad nauseum in class and something you've had for a couple years now, so I didn't feel like we needed to go over that. But if you need help with that, please come see me as well. Good luck, and let me know if you need anything.